Hey guys, so we've got a 2007 Toyota Highlander with a 3.3 in it. The customer complaint is that it's a crank no start. They did complain about it having a difficult start and some sputtering while it was trying to start before today. And so now it's to a point where it doesn't start at all. And so it died on them in the parking lot. So we went and grabbed it, towed it here, and so we're going to diagnose it and let them know what's going on with it. So the indications that they gave me, it sounds like it's possibly a fuel issue. And so we're going to kind of go in that direction. But first we scanned it for codes, and there's no codes available. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab some data and see if we can activate the fuel pump using our bidirectional scanner here. So that's what we're going to do now. And so we're going to go to engine. We're going to go to actuator test. We're going to go to fuel pump on off. And sometimes it takes a little bit for it to get there. All right, so now we have our data that we want to be associated with, and we are at the fuel pump on off. So it gives us the choice to turn it on and off, physically. So we're going to command the fuel pump to operate. Now, when we do this, we should, it being quiet in here and the key on, we should be able to hear the fuel pump whirl. We should be able to hear it buzzing, you know, that noise that it would make. And so here we go. Don't hear anything. Turn it off. It's on now. There's nothing, I don't hear any noise. It's not on per se, it's just commanded to be on. I do hear the fuel pump relay activating whenever I turn it off and on though. But I don't hear a pump whirling. And so that means our relay is receiving power from the control side. It doesn't mean that the load side is working. It just means that our control side is got the power in the ground and it's clicking, but it doesn't mean that we have a good connection inside that relay. So before we go chasing that down and doing all kinds of tests on that, we're going to do a fuel pressure test and see if we got anything coming up when we do an engine crank and see if that makes any difference. So we'll test the pressure while we're cranking the engine. So let's go and do that. So we're going to hook this up here so it will stay put. And when we crank the engine, we should see this gauge popping up, okay? And so we've got our battery charger on our battery to help us out with cranking so we don't kill it. So as I'm cranking, just keep focused on this gauge right here. We have no pressure here, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to access the fuel pump, and we're going to check for voltage right at the pump. And that's fortunate for this car. It's easy to get to. It's under the rear seat on the driver's side. We don't have to get under the car and drop a tank to get to it, so that's fortunate. So we can do that. So we'll go ahead and get that set up, and then we'll go from there. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our leads. Our lab scope, or our scanner has a lab scope attached, incorporated with it. That's a nice thing about that Varus is it is a scope with the scanner, with the scan tool. So we're gonna grab these, grab a couple pins. And we've already accessed the fuel pump itself. And we got the seat out of the way, got the carpet pulled back. I moved the little cover out of the way, and I've accessed the wiring. So what we need to do now is, let's go look at the fuel pump real quick and I'll show you what we're talking about. Okay, so we've got access to our fuel pump, got the seat out of the way, removed the carpet. And we have this little cover here that covers up the terminals for the wiring. So we pull that back. So now we need to know which wires to pin to tap into. And what we're going to do is we're going to back probe into these and see if we have voltage. And there's two ways we're going to do this. One is you can back probe with your pin directly into the leads. I believe it's the black and the white with the black and the blue. I believe that's the ground and power. And so we're going to tap into those like so, and that will make a connection down in the connector, and now it'll be in position to check your voltage and your ground. So what we need to do though is pull up a wiring diagram real quick and verify which wire is which. So let's go do that. All right, so here we go. We're going to grab our Mitchell wiring diagrams. Then we're going to go to engine performance. It automatically brings these up, so you got to scroll through them because this is the hybrid. We don't want that one. So we want to scroll down until we get to the 3.3. So there we go there. Now we're looking for the fuel pump. What did I say? It was the white and black and the blue. I think that's what we're looking for. Okay, there's our fuel pump right there. Boom. Let's see, yeah, white and black is the ground, and the blue, until it gets to this connector, wherever that's at, is the power. So the control side off this relay, this is what we're hearing clicking. Powers the relay, kicks it over, supplies power to the fuel pump, and then it goes to the ground. So this is a power supply relay, or a power supply switched is what it is. So we need to tap into this blue wire with our power and our white and black for the ground. So let's go do that real quick. Exit. And now we're going to go to scope multimeter. We're going to go to digital multimeter because we're just checking voltage and ground. If we have to do an ohm check, we'll do that. But first we're going to check for voltage. So volts DC. That's an indication that it's switched over. So now it's safe to make our hookups. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So since blue is our, it doesn't really matter in this case, but we'll hook up blue. Our blue to power, so our blue is going to go to this one here, number 1. And then this one will go to the ground. Okay. And we're gonna go ahead and sit this in the front here, because we're gonna do two things. We're gonna watch the fuel pressure gauge, and we're gonna watch the voltage through this. All right, so go ahead and slide in here if you can. So we're gonna go ahead and make our connections. We're gonna go down until we feel it hit. And there we're good. What you don't want to do is touch these together. So you might want to make sure that you've got them separated out. And see in here better. Now what I want you to do is, as I'm cranking, scan here and scan to that gauge. You see the gauge right there? So we're going to read that we have 12 volts here, and we're going to read that we have 0 pressure on the fuel gauge. All right, here we go. 12.3, 0 psi. So we got everything upstream of the pump is good because we tapped into the actual ground So we know the ground is good. We're getting full voltage to the pump. And obviously we tapped into the voltage and we know the voltage is good. So we know both circuits are good all the way to the pump. So we don't have to do anything upstream of that. So what we're gonna do is, now sometimes, if you stick a pin inside a connector like that and you have a bad connection, because it could just be a bad connection at the connector, right? But if you have a bad connection and you stick a pin in the back side of it, so all of a sudden this lazy pin that's not touching the pin up here, you stick it in the back of that thing and it pushes it. Now it makes contact with the other one that's up here. So now it's a good contact. And so in that instance, maybe you put the pin in and now the vehicle runs because you had a bad pin fit connection in there. So we're gonna pull that connector off just to be sure that the pin fit is good, which I'm not suspecting it is good, it's bad, but it's a step you definitely wanna check. So we're gonna do that right now. So what we're doing is we're checking our pin fit. This is what I was talking about, if you can focus in here. Our pins have to fit inside these tangs. And if these get worn out from just the vehicle vibrating over the years, I forget how many miles are on this thing, 120 or something like that, the vibrations eventually can cause these to wallow out. And you can also get corrosion up in here, make them, they get dirty and then they don't want to make a good connection. So what you want to do is look down in here and see if you see any corrosion or dirtiness. And I don't see anything there. And look down on the pins themselves. And what you want to do is look down on these pins. You want to see if any of them are bent or pinned over. They'll be knocked over so they're not making a good connection. And you're looking for corrosion and dirt as well. And they look clean, they look straight. So what we're going to do is take our pins, our test pins, and put it in there and see how it feels with the drag. And we know it's these two right here on the bottom. We want to know how that feels. Oh, I was wrong. I need to go grab the yellow ones. One size off. Yeah. What are you gonna do? So you want to do a pin fit test and see how that feels. And you want to feel a nice, good drag. Okay. You want it to be floppy loose, and you'll definitely notice if it is. And they both feel real good. So, and if you're not sure what that feels like, attach them, hit them with another connector or another pin and see how it feels. Compare them, see how they feel to the others. Because chances are they're not all going to be wallered out. But sometimes, another thing that'll cause it is somebody will get in here and they'll take their test light and jam it in there to make a connection to test for voltage. So if somebody's been in here before and they're doing testing, they can get in here and just jam their test light in there, and that'll make that pin go whoop, so it widens it out, and then it doesn't make a good connection on these pins in here. So you want to test that pin fit, and these feel really good. So back to your test light. If you're using a test light, it's not wrong to use a test light, but you want to just touch it. You want to touch it, just barely touch it in there. You don't want to jam that sucker in there because that'll distort that pin, and then you will have a pin fit issue later on. All right, so we're going to put these in here, and then we're going to hook these to our leads. Let's see, that one was the blue one, so we'll go there. And we know we've got voltage, right? And so we were already testing that. So this is just a, what am I doing? Wrong one. So this is just a confirmation that it's going all the way through the pin to the very end of the pin. So we'll crank it and see what our voltage is. Okay, here we go. and we got battery voltage. Okay, so we need a pump. We're done with the diagnosis. We need a pump. So we can call it good. We have verified our wiring is good. We know we have no codes. We know that we have voltage and ground all the way back to the pump. And we know the ground is good because we actually use the ground at the connector, not a ground straight to the battery, which would allow us to bypass the ground. So we know the ground is good. We know the power circuit is good. So we know our relays are good. Now on these Toyotas, I have seen relays kind of peter out, and especially with blower motors, so your higher amperage units. I don't know what the amperage on a Toyota pulls typically for a pump. But we know we got voltage to the pump, and we know our pump is not pumping. So while we're cranking, so we know that it definitely needs a pump. All right, so we'll get it ordered, and we'll catch back up with you guys when the parts arrive.